So I think the Heat have a few questions to answer. One of them is going to be how they guard Donovan Mitchell and Ty Jerome. You can't be giving up 60 points to those two guys. The other question is, who else is going to score besides Tyler Hero and Adebayo? Paolo Banchero abusing him in the free throw on the free throw line, and then also just getting to the paint. I think he. You know what? I was going to bring up something about him. If you doubt his ability, I think you're stupid. He's again somebody who's probably going to make all NBA teams going forward in the future. But I was going to say the thing that I had in my notes about him is he looks like he's been here for forever.
Yeah, they actually went on a 21-0 run as well, going into the fourth. That was a pretty much the shifting of the game. We talk about it all the time, right? Thibs is usually playing his starters 42 minutes a game in the regular season. He actually let Cam Payne go out there, and he was a huge contributor to that 21-0 run. I think he hit. Let me see. He hit three threes. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that, man. You think it's kind of sketchy that defense on Steph? I know you've probably seen some clips of it.
Yeah. No. I mean, they definitely foul him a lot, but
they foul him.
They let it,
bro.
They're letting them play, bro. That's the one thing about playoff basketball. Like I was talking to Zach about it. I've been telling everyone they let them be more physical. Like obviously that might be fouls in the regular season, but no, they're letting them play, bro. And I like that though. You know what I mean? It kind of brings us back. Even the score, 95-85, it kind of brought us back to like 90s basketball.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook's gonna be playing, and like you might have to worry about that a little bit. You can't let him get wide ass open threes, basically. Like you're gonna have to like be a little bit on. And the threes, our 3-point defense is so bad. And man, I respect the Timberwolves. I talked kind of down on them and said their defensive net rating is kind of misleading because I don't think they're gonna be able to slow down our guys. And hey, you said it, man. I didn't even have to say it. Austin Reeves, LeBron James, had it in my notes. At times, LeBron looks old. There was a few times, especially in transition, he would get pushed off his route by Randall or McDaniels and like miss a layup, and I'm like, that's interesting.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boys over here at 3-Man Weave. I'm your co-host CJ here with my lovely co-host ZD. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Man, I'm in the building, bro. Hey, like I think I've come on here with just energy on energy because obviously it's the playoffs. I feel like, we're going to talk about it a lot, but the playoff atmosphere is something, Miles Turner was talking about it, bro. We posted it on 3-Man Weave on the Instagram, but it's incredible. Mm-hmm. That's one word. That's the word I can use for, how I feel right now. It's incredible. I think the playoffs have put me in that mindset, bro. How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing great. After that win, we'll get into it, but just feeling good, bro. My team has been killing it, and it's looking good for us. So yeah, I can't complain. And being able to watch, all these players playing at this high level so far into the career, just it motivates me. You know what I'm saying? If they're doing it at this age, it's we haven't even got into our prime yet, and we can achieve whatever we put our minds to, type of deal. I get that a lot whenever I watch sports or just anything, just kind of greatness in front of my eyes, and it's like, damn, like if they could do this shit, I could do it too, bro. They just put the work in,
bro.
So doing great, bro. Can't complain.
I feel it's crazy. Like I feel incredible when my team lost. It's crazy, but I just think watching all these guys and like you said, just the joy. I just see a lot of smiling. So I'm never one to turn that down, brother. But I'm excited to chop it up with you once again. I think we've been super consistent. But let's get right into it, man. I think we haven't talked about this team in a little minute. Obviously, you guys know the Kings of the East, right? The Cleveland Cavaliers. I think we've talked about it, man, that the Miami Heat are no slouch, right? I think when they saw Tyler Hero, Davion Mitchell, win that game versus Atlanta, I said it on the last pod. They got nervous, bro. If you would have asked Coach Bo, hey, would you rather the Hawks win or the Heat win? You already know what he would have said for 100%. Sure, but just keep that on the down low. But, the Heat are ready to compete for sure, and I think we saw that. Interestingly enough, I thought they were going to have some tired legs, but I think the Cavs jumped out to an early lead, and the Heat were able to weather that storm. And I think it was behind the ability of Tyler Hero. I think he's going to be really the story of this series. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell contributed his 30, and we've talked about him too on this podcast. One of the greatest playoff scorers of all time. For the kids who may be watching who don't know about Donnie Mitchell, go look up his playoff performances, some of his career highs. He's torched teams before, and he torched the Heat. And I think that worries me a bit. The Heat are very solid on the defensive end, and you would think that Spo would want to key in on him, but it didn't really seem like they were not that they were guarding him in a nonchalant way, but it didn't really seem like they were trying to slow him down. And I think, to me, that's going to be an issue going forward if Donovan Mitchell's getting 30 a night.
Right.
That's going to be a problem. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. It's another thing I had in my notes. But yeah, I think the pace at which Cleveland played with, it was good to see. I wasn't expecting them to play as fast as they did. I think that gave them a lot of opportunities. It's interesting. I think Mobley looked pretty solid, right? Obviously, Ty Jerome coming in off the bench with those 28 points. I think in a playoff debut, if I'm not mistaken, Kyrie Irving and LeBron James are the only Cleveland Cavaliers players to have more, which is pretty interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool stat. But we'll talk about this later too. The things we post on Instagram. Ty Jerome, obviously Sixth Man of the Year finalist, so he is no slouch as well. Well deserved too, like CJ just said. And I told this to you before we started recording. If he is going to be contributing at this level, that's also a no-no for the Heat as well. They're going to have to do a lot better job guarding these dudes. Obviously, there's a ton of dudes they got to worry about: Darius Garland, Mobley, Jared Allen. But if you take those three, I'm honestly living with that. If Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen win this playoff series, I'd be okay with that.
Right.
But we can't let Donovan Mitchell and Ty Jerome and all these other dudes start going off. That's not going to be good. I did want to highlight something about Bam Adebayo. Bro, he played his ass off.
He played a great game.
Yeah, great game. Super solid. I watched him throughout the game because we talked about him on the last podcast, bro. His effort was very high level. I think the scoring, to me, it just seems like an aggressiveness thing with him. I think he had 11 at half. I'm like, man, where is this Bam every night? Like, there's times where he doesn't look like he wants to do damage, but Bam Adebayo is easily a top 50 player in the NBA when he's feeling himself, and I think you got a taste of that last night. We talked about it before we hit the record button as well. I think the Cavs just completely trumped them in the fourth quarter. Yeah. No pun intended. Obviously, the market going down. It's a damn shame, but neither here nor there. The Heat went down in the fourth quarter. I think when you can't score in the final quarter of the game, that's no bueno either. So I think the Heat have a few questions to answer. One of them is going to be how they guard Donovan Mitchell and Ty Jerome. You can't be giving up 60 points to those two guys. The other question is, who else is going to score besides Tyler Hero and Adebayo, consistently? I think Alec Burks looked great. That's a guy who can score. I think he hit a couple threes and he looked pretty solid. And people forget about his skill level too. But the Heat have a lot of guys. Khalil Ware, Davion Mitchell, who are honestly sleepers in the NBA. I think they're also competing to be high level players in this league. So the Heat are no slouch, bro. The Cavs won 121-100. So I think it was really just that fourth quarter downpour that set them forward. But super interesting series. Like I brought up a couple minutes ago, I don't think Spo really, has a problem playing Cleveland. I think they match up pretty well. But I think if you ask Kenny, man, Hawks or Heat, like I said, he would have said the Hawks for sure. And I think it showed yesterday. Those guys they had tired legs, right? They've been playing more games than the Cavs have been recently. And I think you asked if that was going to really impact the game a bit. It didn't seem like it did for the Heat. No, I think they couldn't score in the fourth quarter. And by the way, guess who's the worst fourth quarter scoring team in the NBA? Just take a guess.
Miami.
Right? Yeah. That's always been a problem.
Yeah.
Which is another issue. I talked to that about Los. He says we love to go ghost in the fourth quarter. I'm like, yeah, man, that's a problem. So I think they have a couple questions to answer in this series, but this shit's interesting too. Another 1-8 matchup that, yeah, like if you're going to be watching playoff basketball, and I don't know everybody's respective teams, so comment below who your team is, who you're watching for sure. But yeah, the Miami Heat can hoop. I told this to CJ a couple podcasts ago. I'm no longer doubting them. Even though they lost by 20, I think it was just that fourth quarter performance. Tyler Hero has shown me enough. You asked those questions about Bam. He answered them, for me. I think he had a really cool interaction with Khalil Ware. He said, man, man. He said, come here, come here, bro. He's like, sometimes your man is supposed to score. We don't, we know you take pride in guarding, but you're not supposed to be that high up on him.
Right.
Sometimes you got to sag back and let him, like, that's part of the game plan. And I think those little moments right there show me why he's a leader and he's going to be able to contribute in this series, bro. So I'm excited for this
Yeah.
one, bro. I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, no, dude, pretty much what you were saying, bro. Just
Yeah.
whenever they get down the Heat, it just seemed like they're never truly out of a game. They were down by
Never.
15 at one point, and then they end up coming back. And then, like you said, it was really just that fourth quarter. But the thing that I was super impressed with was obviously Davion Mitchell. I feel like he's been proving to us since the play-in, and really, since he got to the Heat. To be honest,
Yeah,
that's when he's been proving to us the type of player he is, stepping up in big moments, hitting big shots. You were asking kind of who's going to be the other person to score. I think it's going to be Davion Mitchell, bro. Honestly,
yeah.
It's gonna have to be or Wiggins, obviously.
Yeah, Wiggins too.
I think he didn't have the greatest game, but if you get a performance where he's getting 15, 20 points, then this game would have been a lot closer. And that's kind of he what he could provide on the defensive side of the ball. But the thing that I noticed that they do a lot, I think whoever was on call, sorry, I always forget, but they were saying that the Heat play a lot of zone, and I feel like when they went to a zone is when they started to kind of like go on their runs. Obviously, like you said, Ty Jerome and Donovan Mitchell are gonna hit shots. Max Strus hit a couple shots. They're gonna do that, but it seemed like when they were in that 2-3 zone is really when they were kind of giving the Cavs a little bit of, because it's hard for Donovan Mitchell to get to the paint and kind of get to how he scores when they're in a zone. So, I'm assuming Spo is probably going to tell them like, hey, I like that look, let's switch it up, maybe not play zone all game because you can't do that, right? Teams are going to eat that up, but I think it's a perfect way. And I know I'll never doubt Spo. I'll never doubt the Heat at this point in my life, and I think he's gonna figure out defensive tactics, and that's like you were saying, that's something that the Heat are. They hold their head up high on that side of the ball, and it's something that it's something I'm not really worried about. It's just more so on the offensive side, but I don't expect Wiggins to have the type of game he had. I think he's going to have a really good series. And, at this point, I think Davion Mitchell is probably going to be their X factor, bro. We know what we know what Tyler Hero it can be. A dog, bro. He's hitting big shots. He's getting to the rim. He's you know him. Come on now. And then obviously, if Bam keeps this up, that you brought up a perfect point, bro. The thing that is it blows my mind with him is that he's not as aggressive as he was this game. And if he is, like you said, he's a top 50, top 25 player in the league. You know what I mean? So I think he's gonna have to play that way this whole series to make it for them to win. But that being said, bro, I think this, like you were saying, this is a really good matchup. I don't think Coach Atkinson, like you said, if he wanted the Hawks, if we're being honest, but I think when you had Ty Jerome coming off almost dropping 30, that's huge, and that was the main thing I had. He answered the question that I had for their bench. You know what I mean? Obviously, not everyone else from the bench performed well, but that he scored 28, and that's really his first playoff game. Like you said, only two other players in Cavs history have scored more in their playoff debut, and it's like I said, it's kind of the experience, but I should have never doubted him. He's been in these type of situations, maybe not in the NBA, but in college, he was a champion there at Virginia. And he's had these moments, you know what I mean? So it's dope to see that, because that's a OKC little rebuild player that we had for a little while, and this is
he was so good on that team too.
So good,
I think that's why. It's funny you brought that up. I truly think that's where his career trajectory changed, because I think Ty Jerome will be here 100%. From now on. So that's cool you brought that up. I think a lot of guys go through that system and they end up being great.
Mm-hmm.
great, pieces to teams. Yeah, I love that, man. I think when you bring up the 28 from him, yeah, I think that's why he lost by so many
Right.
points.
Yeah.
If Ty Jerome, if you don't get the 30 from Ty, like you said, bro, you're not, this game is 105, 100.
Right.
It's not the same. So super interesting stuff there. If you guys can check out that series is amazing. Definitely one of the better ones we have on our docket. But man, going into another lovely matchup in the East, my brother. Did you catch this Celtics Magic game by chance?
I didn't actually. I was eating with the
Yeah.
fam, so I wasn't able to watch it as much. I saw the score was it 49-48 going into half. Orlando was up.
Yeah.
So I saw
Yep.
that, but I wasn't able to watch it. Obviously I saw Paolo do his thing, which I'm not really surprised. We know the type of player he can be, but I wasn't able to sit down and watch it. So if you could give me a little recap of what you were able to watch.
Yeah, I was able to watch a little bit. Okay, well, I'll tell you, man. In the first half, Paolo and Franz were giving them fits. I think we talked about this on the podcast too, dude, and it's cool. We've been kind of right. We've been right. Missoula refuses to double. That psychopath doesn't care who you are. He wants to play man to man, switch everything. You know how the Celtics guard. Everybody should be able to play 1 through 5. The thing is, though, is the Magic have a similar style team to the Celtics. I think when you have two big forwards like that, it's tough. They've always struggled against bigger guys like that. I think, we've brought up the Wemby, the Chet Holmgren matchup nightmares that caused the Celtics to just fold, but I think the big forwards are also an issue for them too. It's not that they can't guard them, but it's that they're not reluctant whenever they're getting going to be like, oh, we need to kind of hover our defense over here. So I
Right.
think Paolo Banchero abusing him in the free throw on the free throw line, and then also just getting to the paint. I think he you know what? I was going to bring up something about him. If you doubt his ability, I think you're stupid. He's again somebody who's probably going to make All NBA teams going forward in the future. But I was going to say the thing that I had in my notes about him is he looks like he's been here for forever.
Bro,
He looks
yeah.
extremely confident. The other thing that I had is the Celtics' depth in this game. Peyton Pritchard and Derek White. You know,
Yeah.
when I was watching, man, with my girlfriend, I turned to her. I said, man, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown aren't even having the best games, and they're still going to lose by whatever. And
Yeah.
they made it closer at the end of the game, but
Mhm.
I think there was a time period where I think Peyton Pritchard hit a three, Derek White hit a three. There was a timeout. The Tatum injury too, but we'll get into that in a second. I thought that was crazy.
Mhm.
But just the Celtics like have this buzz about their arena that whenever they hit a bunch of threes, bro, it is just like you feel like the worst thing in the world. Like I don't know what it is about the Boston Garden, but I think their fans, the depth that they have, and then just their ability to be able to be a full unit that doesn't necessarily need their all stars to show up. I think the one thing that I had too is the Magic need Paolo and Franz. So if they didn't get that, this game would have been a blowout.
Mhm.
So that worries me a little bit for the Magic on the Magic side. I think also I hate to say this, but I just think Wendell Carter Jr., guys like Jonathan Isaac, I just don't think they're used to this type of playoff atmosphere just yet. I think Kristaps Porzingis is also a problem.
Mhm.
So last thing I had to say is Porzingis doesn't like to play in the regular season, but Missoula loves to deploy him in the playoffs, and the Magic have absolutely nobody who can guard that. And it was pretty cool to see because KP is I know KP's special, bro.
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of people have watched him throughout his career, especially the younger kids. But I also go back and watch kind of how he played on the Knicks and on the Mavericks, and then watch how he plays now. It's just a completely different player. I think that year in Washington really set him aside. And the thing that I had is like his post game man is just torching them. I think whenever he faces up, he becomes one of the most dangerous players in the NBA, and his ability to pass and his size just gives him fits. And yeah, this series is interesting too. This game was definitely less interesting from an offensive standpoint. I think this series is more about defense than anything. So if you're looking for defense, this is the series for you. But once again, I think the Celtics, we said it, the bombardment of their 3-point shooting is too much for the Magic. And then when you pile that on top of the Celtics' depth and their ability to still win games, whenever their all stars don't have the best game, I think what did Tatum finish with?
Tatum finished with 17, 14, and 4.
7, 17, 14, and 4 on what shooting?
8 for 22, so less than.
Yeah, so that's yeah,
That's
not very good.
that's not that good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Mosley understands the assignment there. I think he had their names at the top of the board, but that's where I asked, the question is who else is going to be able to guard their other all-stars that aren't all-stars because, they play on the same team. You might as well make Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, maybe even Peyton Pritchard one day. Man, like, bro, he's going for 20, 25 points, and it's just like, well, there's nothing you could really do about that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Magic are definitely up against a mountain here. You could be looking at a sweep, bro. This is the one series that I'm like, man, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. I
So
think whenever we did our predictions, I said they could get one, but I think it'd be like five, honestly. Just because I
it's got to
just
be at home
yeah,
too.
yeah, 100%. Because I don't think they have enough firing power to be able to keep up. And when you Jalen Brown had 16, Tatum had 17, Porzingis had 5. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you get Derek White with 30, and then Peyton Pritchard coming on the bench getting 19. It's just a little too much for them. And they have one of the better defenses in the league. Obviously, they held their all NBA players to less than 20 each. You know what I mean? They can only
Yeah.
do so much. And then our main thing with the Magic all year has been their offense. Like I said, I wasn't able to watch it, but I'm assuming they only scored 86 points. It probably looked a little stuck in mud, I'd assume. You know what I mean? Without whenever Paolo wasn't on the court or Franz, I'm assuming they were
Well,
staggering their
yeah, they were.
minutes.
I was gonna say they were gonna stagger, but I think it's just also the way that they score too. I didn't bring this up, but Paolo and Franz just aren't the best 3-point shooters. It's
Right.
just not. I didn't bring that up, but like I said, they abuses them from the free throw line. They get to the paint, that's great, but they need to add that other part to their game to really be. I think Paolo will. My worry is really Franz. I think
Yeah.
Franz for Germany. It's interesting. I know you've probably seen this too. He kind of. It's like he becomes a little bit better of a shooter. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, that's usually what happens whenever you're playing for your country. It makes sense. But whenever he comes over here and he's playing in the NBA, I think he's just always struggled with the 3-point shot. And to me, that's really going to be the difference in this series is just the 3-point shooting and then the defense, right? So, if the Magic do have a game where their defense isn't perfect, the Celtics are going to score 130 points.
Right.
And hopefully the Magic can keep up. I think the Magic on a good day, you're asking about Cole Anthony, right? A couple other guys. I think we'll see if Anthony Black and Cole Anthony can get going.
Mm. Yeah.
That's the other thing too, because the Magic really need some other pieces. But that was really my like ultimate thoughts. I didn't really watch this game in full, but when I was watching, I did notice that it's like the Magic can become stagnant whenever they're not in a set that is, called out or like a pick and roll or something. Like it's the way the Celtics play, it's so free flowing, right? It's so natural and sometimes you know, it's just not the same way for the Magic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
100%.
really all I can say. If you're a Magic fan, I feel bad. I think defending champs, right? There's really not like much you guys can do outside of try to hit your threes. Um, yeah, try to hit the threes. Make sure you can guard. I think you guys had a lovely defensive performance. 103 points would win you a lot of games, but it's just the offensive question marks, right? Yeah, the Celtics overcame that deficit, obviously. Yeah, not really much from there. I think they were just up from there. So super cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you don't have any more thoughts. I think we can go into this Indiana Bucks game.
Mm.
We talked about it already.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just excited for Dame to come back, though, man.
Yeah.
I think that's going to change the course of the series. You know what? For all, okay, yeah, he hasn't won a championship either, bro. But he's also not somebody that shies away from the playoff lights, So I think when he was telling Tyrese Halliburton, okay, that's one thing. But I think the Bucks have a puncher's chance for sure once he gets back in the lineup, and if he could be 80% of the Damian Lillard we know, I think it'll be a closer series. But you already said it. I think Giannis needs help bad. I think they need to start KPJ bad. I think AJ Green's also pretty, solid. I think he needs to be playing as much as possible. And then hopefully Gary Trent Jr. can also give you that lift. But the pace that the Pacers play with, no pun intended, obviously is just, it seems like it's a bit too much for the Bucks, and the Bucks don't have the defensive structure surrounding their team anymore. I think Brook Lopez used to be a defensive player of the year candidate, but he slowed down a bit and he really just held down the paint. But they don't have the perimeter defenders to stick with all of the weapons that the Pacers have. I think Tyrese Halliburton and Siakam are one thing, but you go Obi, you go to Miles, you can go to Mathurin, you can go to TJ, you can go to Nemhard. It's just,
they have so many
oh
weapons,
gosh,
bro.
that are like, and they're all solid too,
Solid,
bro.
yeah.
Like they're all pretty solid role players. Like if you put them on another team, all those dudes would, increase the value of that other squad. So Indiana won 117-98. Nothing too crazy outside of Giannis's performance. You brought up, I didn't even know he had a good game, but he had a great game. I think he'll keep doing that. What was it, 36 points, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, but just continuing to do damage in the paint. He's really somebody that doesn't have to add a three-pointer. So I think when you get Dame coming back, obviously you mentioned that he had that thrombosis, that vein thrombosis, and he was taking the blood thinners a couple weeks prior to that diagnosis, but he seems to be ready to go, and I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to what Doc Rivers can deploy, and hopefully they get into the pick and roll and really make it their bread and butter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like you said, the series is gonna change whenever Dame is able to come back. You know what I mean? And I feel like, the kind of rivalry that has been brewing with Tyrese and Dame it's gonna be great, bro. Like you said, Dame does not shy away from the bright lights and the big stages. So whenever he comes back, yeah, it's gonna be tough, bro. Like I don't think it's
Yeah,
not gonna be as
he's
sweet.
cold.
Yeah, it's not gonna be as
I
sweet
love
as the
him.
Pacers thinks it's gonna be. But until then, I think we kind of did it. We talked about it. Last pod. Just Giannis just needs help, bro. Then there's not
Yeah,
anybody else that can really create besides KPJ, and that hopefully
yeah.
Doc kind of makes that adjustment going into game 2. But
They're
yeah.
running a 7-man rotation too already. I think Dame, I think, or 7 or 8 man.
Mm-hmm.
Like their bench is already short as fuck
Mm-hmm.
because they can't really put, like you're saying, they can't put other guys out there who can't score. I think the Kuzma thing was interesting. We haven't talked about that yet, but I don't think you're getting zero from him.
No. Yeah.
That too.
Definitely.
So great game. This series is another banger. To me, it's better than the Celtics Magic. Definitely catch the Pacers Bucks because, like CJ was saying, that rivalry has been brewing the last 2 years or last 2 seasons, I would say, pretty heavily. And they're just, I think, what are they? Same division?
Yes, same division.
Yeah. So just there's always been some bad blood between those teams, and I think, yeah, bro, when you're at the field house, you're gonna have to play.
Mm-hmm.
That too, man. That gym is, it's one thing when they're playing in Milwaukee, but a lot of players on the road tend to go ghost, especially when your role players. It's a lot tougher.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really what they were struggling with, and I think that's why they lost this game.
Yes, sir. Well
Yeah,
said.
but hey, yeah, next one, bro. I think this is the last one in the East for game 1. But it was the game that was going on when we were doing the podcast last time. Knicks Knicks Pistons. I think I told you they were doubling Cade. Tobias Harris ended up finishing with 25. So I think the Knicks game plan in this series is going to be really trying to slow down Cade Cunningham. I noticed it was tightly contested throughout. I think in the second quarter it was almost tied. I think the Knicks were up by 2. I think in the first quarter it was tied after 1, and then the Knicks were up by 2 going into the third. Bro, and the Pistons blitzed them in the third. I think Malik Beasley, right? Like, he didn't have like the craziest game. It's not like he scored 40 or anything.
Right.
But I think he's just out there to bother people, bro, and hit threes. Like that, he truly knows his role. I think that plays into the Pistons' hands a little bit because I could tell Brunson was getting bothered. But in the fourth quarter, man, I mean that dude showed up. You know what I'm saying? I think he was 3 or 14 in this game going into the third, and I think he finished 9 of like 12 or something after. So it kind of goes to show you his resilience and his ability to lead a playoff team. And I'm I'm excited because we brought this up for a second, but the Jalen Duren, Karl Anthony Towns battle is extremely exciting to me. I got a chance to kind of go through this game a little bit. I had recorded it. Obviously, I've been recording everything. Got to because it's the playoffs. But I was watching the third, fourth quarter, and like, bro, Jalen Duren's really a problem. Especially on the glass. It's not like he like didn't have the craziest game, I think, from an offensive perspective, and I think that hurt the Pistons a little bit. But if he gives you 15, 16 points in one of these games, bro, you're looking at you're gonna see a couple games to go OT for sure, because I feel like this series is gonna be super close. McCall Bridges, Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, like all those dudes, man, super solid. They have been all year. My only question for them is like really at times it really seems like they rely on Jalen Brunson whenever these games get down to the wire. And I think, that puts a lot of pressure on him because I feel like that's where Brunson kind of does his damage. Obviously, we know he's in the finalist for the Clutch Player of the Year, but I think the Knicks need to become a more like whole team, if that makes sense. So sometimes whenever guys aren't necessarily going off, bro, like other cats got to step up. And I think in this game, you really got that from OG and Karl Anthony Towns, right? I think, Cat being like the all-star that he was all season, that's one thing you expect that in the playoffs, even though Cat has had some playoff shortcomings. But OG Anunoby is like, bro, he's the real deal, man. One of the best two-way players we have in the NBA, but for him to give you 23 points, I think he's really the main X factor, and the reason why, because they won this game, it was because his defense on Cade and then also his ability to score. And I think that's really what's going to help them, win this series, because I think they're going to win this series, bro. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'll see whenever the series returns back to Detroit, kind of what the games look like and everything like that. I know, you know what? Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I think Thompson's defense on Brunson was bothering him, but I don't know. Like, again, the Thompson twins are in a really tough, both of them right now are in, one has to guard Curry, one got to guard Brunson. Do I think they're going to keep getting theirs? Yes. Do I think they're slowing them down? Yes. But I think the notion that they were going to be like completely those two stars, Brunson and Curry, that is, being out of the game, that's not going to happen.
No.
Brunson had 34 points in this game. I don't, I think Asar, right? Like, I don't know. He's just, it's tough because you would think you're playing great defense and then you look up and somebody's got 40 because of what he's doing at the free throw line, what he's doing at the end of the game. So I think Bickerstaff has to go back to the drawing board a little bit and see if they might need to double him at times. I think they did sometimes in the pick and roll, but I think Brunson is going to be kind of the key person here in this series, because if he goes off like this, I don't think the Pistons could get swept, bro, to be honest.
Yeah.
If he has 35 and everybody else has 20. I think Cat and OG getting 20, 25 apiece, that's one thing, but you cannot let Jalen Brunson get that 40 because that's going push them over the top. But Cade being 8 of 21, man, I don't want to harp too much on it. I think he still had a solid game, 12 assists, right? 21 and 12, so he still had that double-double, but I think for me it's just going to be about that efficiency. There's a lot of efficiency questions with him, and same with Ant, right? 8 of 22. I think that means to me a bit you were forcing it. But obviously you still have to get to it in the first game of the playoffs. There's nothing wrong with that. I think Cade has earned his shots. But yeah, man, it wasn't like a super like, I don't know. When we were doing the podcast, it was tough because of course we wanted to watch it. I think I only watched like the first quarter of it, so I wasn't really able to go back and like go through this entire game. But the Knicks ended up getting the W, and I was able to watch the end and really just see Jalen Brunson. I think he scored like 12 straight points, bro, to finish out the game or something. So
yeah, they actually went on a 21-0 run as well, going into the fourth. That was a pretty much the shifting of the game. We talk about it all the time, right? Thibs is usually playing his starters 42 minutes a game in the regular season. He actually let Cam Payne go out there, and he was a huge contributor to that 21-0 run. I think he hit. Let me see. He hit three threes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was all during that run. So that was a huge part. So, obviously, Thibs is a great coach. I'll never take away from him, and he's smart enough to stick with the guy that is, doing well at that moment. And Cam Payne was doing great. He was hitting open shots, he was hitting big threes. So, that was a huge shift in the
Yeah,
game. And then obviously Brunson, he just, probably winning clutch player of the year in our eyes, and he proved
yeah.
it. You know what I mean? He wasn't having the greatest game leading up to the fourth quarter, but he just always finds out, he flips that switch, and he turns it around when his team needs him. And he ended up going crazy, bro. And like you said, it's when you're getting OG Anunoby, playing defense on Cade, having him commit six or turnovers. It's tough. It's his first playoff series, so like you said, not gonna hold it against him too much. And I know that he'll probably bounce back tonight, but it's gonna be tough for them, bro. You get the Tobias Harris scoring 25. On paper, that's one of those games where you're like, damn, if he's scoring 25, the Pistons probably win, right? Nah, it's just
Yeah,
what
I
isn't
know,
the way
right?
it wasn't the way it happened that game. But that's going to be one of the good ones. I think Isaiah Stewart fouled out as well, so hopefully
We
he.
talked about it for the free throws. I think we said it, but I'm
Yeah.
like the free throws are gonna decide this series, man.
Mm-hmm.
Because Brunson's gonna get to the line. We know Kay will get to the line, but I think whoever's fouling more, that's not good. I think the Pistons definitely are foul heavy too.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that Beef Stew fouled out.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually had
Yeah.
five, but he had five. Asar had five. Dern had four. So I know Dern. I think he got in foul trouble a little bit early, so that's part of the reason why he didn't, wasn't able to get it going in the points, in the offensive side of the ball. But it's tough, bro. You're playing against a veteran team that knows their angles, knows to make you jump and commit the fouls, and they use their bodies and stuff. So it's gonna be good, bro. I think like you said, we definitely need to see what it looks like whenever they go back to is it Little Caesars Arena?
Yeah.
So I kind of want to see that. They haven't had playoff basketball in a very long time, and I know that place is gonna be rocking, and hopefully they can figure something out. Honestly, like they're gonna have to get obviously a win on the road, but I think this is a huge game for them. I think they need to steal this one away from them going into
You
coming back
think
to.
so, huh?
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, because they're we know who the Knicks are. We know the type of team they are. Gritty, very like you said, you're gonna play their defense. Brunson's gonna do his thing, but going back home to Detroit, you gotta at least the series has at least got to be tied in
That
my
makes
eyes.
sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. 'Cause also, New York has home court for 7, but I was just gonna say one more thing about the pace. I think you brought up a great point. The Pistons were playing the brand of basketball that the Knicks were trying to play, and I think, yeah, the Knicks are one of the best teams at dictating the way that they play because they have Jalen Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of determines the speed of the game, how fast or how slow he wants things to go. Um, and yeah, if you're a Knicks fan, you got to be happy. But I think if you're a Pistons fan, I think there's still light at the end of the tunnel. In my opinion, this is also going to be a series that should be close. 6 games, I think. I think the Pistons could win tonight, maybe even their first home game.
Mm-hmm.
They were not far off, and I think they'll get a better performance from. Obviously, I mean, Asar like having 5 fouls, that's one thing, but I think he's gonna be really like, all right, I'm not letting Brunson do anything. So we'll see,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Excited for this one, super hyped about it.
Yes.
That one, I would say out of all those we just went through, bro, definitely the Magic Celtics is like, but
Yeah.
I don't the other three definitely super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but man, heading over to the Western Conference where our teams reside. Oh man, let's get right into it, man. I think we saw this Warriors Rockets game, sir. You know, where do I start? I think so. They came out with the energy, dude. I think if you're a Houston fan, you were watching this. I know people were turned for that. I know cats from Houston because I went to U of H. They were texting me talking about, man, I haven't seen a playoff game in a long time. And I think the energy that they came out with spoke to that.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing with a ton of juice in the first quarter. I think Şengün had that poster dunk to start it off. Fred VanVleet is a motherfucker. He's a motherfucker.
Yeah,
Like
bro.
that dude is a killer for sure, man. Super competitive. Hit a tray ball, got a big jump ball too in the first half. That was really cool to see. Just the effort from them was there. Man, but as the game started to go on, you saw it shift. You
Mm-hmm.
saw a shift. You saw Curry start to get going. I think Curry had 31 in this game, but in the first quarter, you wouldn't have thought he was going to finish with that.
Mm-hmm.
The way that the Rockets were guarding him, and specifically Amin Thompson being extremely physical, and honestly fouling him everywhere up the court. I was going to ask you about that, man. You think it's kind of sketchy that defense on Steph? I know you've probably seen some clips of it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean they definitely foul him
They
a
let it
lot,
go.
but
Yeah,
they
they
let
foul him,
they let it
bro.
they're letting them play, bro. That's the one thing about playoff basketball. Like I was talking to Zach about it. I've been telling everyone they let him play, be more physical. Like obviously that might be fouls in the regular season, but no, they're letting them play, bro. And I like that though. You know what I mean? It kind of brings us back.
hmm
Even the score, not
hmm
95-85, it kind of brought us back to like 90s basketball.
hmm
You know what I mean? Now that's
Yeah,
literally what I
yeah,
said. Like it reminded me of that.
yeah. Yeah, like the it definitely felt like a rivalry series. Even though, by the way, I Warriors fans, I got you. I know you guys have pounded the Rockets. I don't think
Yeah.
you guys have lost to the Rockets in the last decade in a playoff series. So I'm
Yep.
not gonna call it a rivalry necessarily, but I think that energy was in that building.
Right.
Um, Dude, yeah, the Houston blitzed them. I think they were playing as a team super well. The offensive rebounding was killing the Warriors, and we brought that up, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just play small ball, so there's just nothing you can do with Steven Adams and Şengün and Eason and a Thompson twin is out there, and obviously Jalen Green, just a bigger lineup. Man, it's frustrating. Jalen Green didn't have the best game, right?
No, not
And
at
I
all.
think it's frustrating because if you got, well, let's see what he finished with. I don't have the percentages. You might have them right in front of you.
He was 3 for 15 with 7 points.
Yes. So the 3 for 15, I think it's good that he didn't stop shooting. But yeah, man, you're gonna need more from him to really compete in this series. Um, Jimmy Butler, you know, Jimmy Butler, where do I start with him? I think we've spoken highly about him. As soon as he came over to the Warriors, he immediately impacted their team. It was clear. Now that they're in the playoffs, he seems to be not on Steph's dick, but very speaking highly of Steph, making sure he speaks it into existence. But Jimmy Butler is just hell. And I think when he's able to hit a three or two, right, and you add that in with his 20 points that is guaranteed on a nightly basis, yeah, you're in a world of hurt, bro. You're in a world of hurt. I think, bro, first quarter, brother, 21-18 Rockets. Like you're saying, it's a 90s game. I think if you like defense, this is another series for you as well. I think I was watching this game and I saw the way that they were guarding Curry. To me, it seems like it's going to be an effective method, but I just think Steph is so great in his conditioning. It's another thing I had in my notes. His conditioning is, I think, the best in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
His ability to just run around everywhere and just continue to tire out the defense is something that we may never see again. Şengün had a lovely first game in the playoffs. I was going to ask you, how do you feel about his performance and what he showed? And I think, for people that were doubting him, this answered a lot. But how do you feel about that?
Yeah, bro. He
25.
he was really the only person doing anything for them. You know what I mean? Like they were able to drop it down to him, and I seen on obviously they play a small ball lineup like you were saying earlier. They were trying to give him the ball, but sometimes spacing would fuck up the play, so it was broke. So they would have to try to get into another set. But then I think Jimmy was guarding him. Obviously, Draymond was guarding him. So, when he's going against players like that who have been in these type of situations, it's harder for him to get it going. But he was the reason why they were in this game. Obviously, like you said, Jalen Green didn't have the greatest game. And, when he's not able to hit his jumper, that kind of puts them in a situation where it's going to be hard for them to get the offense going because he was their leading scorer for the year. I think he averaged 24, 25, and he only scored
Yeah,
seven.
he'll be okay, though.
Yeah, no, he should be good. It's just that was I feel like you said a huge part of why they lost this game. You know what I mean? Sengun did his thing.
Yeah.
I was very impressed. Him punching it on Draymond and then kind of just him being able to just get into the paint and get a little hook shot, little jumper,
Yeah,
little
the push shots.
push
Yeah, I
shots
like it.
like that was there all game, bro, and that's probably gonna be there all series. So I think that was a question I had for the Rockets. Who's going to be that guy to step up? It's looking like Sengun, bro. Honestly, now it's just going to be who's going to be the other person to support him, and hopefully it can be Jalen Green. I have high hopes for him, but if he keeps performing at this level, it's gonna be tough for them, bro.
Yeah, I also wanted to say I think the Warriors' depth continues to prevail. Gary Payton, Buddy Hield, Quentin Post, right? Uh, and then honestly, like Moses Moody and Brandon Podziemski, yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna, you're gonna have to worry about that if you're Houston. So I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered for Ime and the Rockets. The other thing is just like the 3-point shooting for them. They need somebody who
Somebody.
can get up 12 threes and hit 4 or 5 of them, because
Hmm.
the Rockets cannot afford to go cold in this series because the Warriors have two guys over there that just continue to do it at a high level,
Hmm.
Butler had 25, Curry had 31 of
Hmm.
their 95 points, right? Mind you. It's not even like that the Warriors shot poorly either. I think they shot like almost 50% from the field and 40% from deep. They
Hmm.
just didn't shoot at all.
Yeah.
76 attempts and 22 attempts from three is very, very uncharacteristic. But I think I was going to say, who dictated the pace in this game?
Who?
The Rockets.
Yeah.
They came up short.
Yeah. No.
I
Yeah.
think that speaks to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think they. You know how we say like, oh, Warriors won this game. I think the Rockets lost this game. Honestly.
Lost this game.
Yeah. Like
Exactly. Yes, Bremo. Exactly. Yep. They were playing the exact way they wanted to. They had Tari Eason everywhere. He was getting so many steals. They had everywhere. They had everybody playing their defensive assignment. And like you said, Jalen Green went ghost. I think Van Fleet went
when
ghost
goes. Yeah. I
too
was about to say he
in
was
the
two
second half.
two for 13 from three.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a perfect way to explain it. Honestly, I have nothing else to say after you said that. I think the Rockets lost this game. They completely dictated the pace. I think they played exactly the way that Ime wanted to play, but they couldn't score, and
Yeah.
that was always the question. I think with them, and I think it's it. For them, I think they're in a tough spot. I don't want to say they could get swept, but they need to win this next game for sure.
For
Because
sure.
I think when they go to whenever they go to wherever the Warriors are at, I forget the name. It's not Oracle.
Chase Center.
Yeah, whenever they go to Chase, you can't play like that there, man.
No.
You're gonna see a sea of yellow. You're gonna have to hit threes. Guys are gonna have to be engaged. You don't want to be down 2-0. So, do you feel this as a sweep, or you think it'll get closer?
I think it's gonna get closer. I'm not
I agree.
I expect Jalen Green to not do this bad at least. You know what I mean? I think he
Yeah, same,
15
same.
15 from him and that would have been enough. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah,
that's kind of where you got to look at it. Obviously you want them to score what they were scoring in during the regular season, but that's just not how it goes in the playoffs, right? And I feel like if he just did like a mediocre game for him, it would have been enough.
yeah.
But I don't think
6 of 20.
it,
6 of 20
right.
with
Yeah, that obviously that's
something.
not the greatest, percentage wise
Yeah.
efficiency, but that would have been enough. You know what I mean? I think I think he's going to do a lot better this upcoming game. I'll put money on it.
I
You know what I mean?
agree.
I think he's gonna have a good
Yeah.
game.
I think he was in a tough spot too, bro, because this was his first one too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's
People
a
forget he's been here for a while, bro, but he hasn't seen that
yeah.
before. And to CJ's point, it's like he knows 3 for 15's like that's not even who I am. Like I know I can do better than that. You brought up the point that I was gonna make with Şengün though, bro. Like if you have any questions about him, I think you should move on to the next person
Hmm.
because he clearly is going to be here a while. So
Yep.
that's all I have to say. I think Rockets fans don't panic like you brought up though. I think the series will get closer, and
Hmm.
I think they might win one on the road.
Ooh.
So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I think Jimmy makes it tough too, bro. I don't know if you saw this, but he hit a three and he turned pointed at Reggie Miller like, yeah, dude, like I do this.
Hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see. I think Ime's prepared those guys at an extremely high level though. I think they dictated the pace and they lost this game. Like the Houston Rockets lost. I don't think the Warriors won.
Right. Yeah. I agree,
Yeah,
bro. It was a
solid.
great game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was so good though. Like that game was awesome, super 90s esque and defensive minded. Going into this next one though, bro, it was a barn burner, and we talked about it, right? Nuggets Clippers, 112 Denver to 110 for the LA Clippers. I don't know if you want to add any other thoughts besides talking about James Harden, Kawhi. I think this next game, recapping it a little bit, I think they have to do a better job of understanding the Clippers. Yeah, Russell Westbrook's going to be playing, and like you might have to worry about that a little bit. You can't let him get wide ass open threes,
Mm-mm.
basically. Like you're gonna have to like be a little bit on him. Like, and that's okay. That's fine, right? I think like you brought this up on the last one too. If MPJ can show up somewhere and decide to be engaged, because right now he seems off, but I think Jokic spoke about it. If you're not engaged right now, who knows when you'll be,
Right.
right? So that's a great question. We were talking about it before we hopped on, right? Like if we can't get it figured out right now in the playoffs, there's really nowhere else we'll be able to do that. So I think the Nuggets have to answer the question about how they're going to be able to implement MPJ. I think once he gets settled and going, I think they'll be okay. And then Norman Powell, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think Kawhi and James Harden. I think he said it last time too. I think James Harden's going to be here in this series, which is super exciting because he hasn't really done that in his career. But it seems like a different. He was even. I don't know if you saw this clip, but somebody asked him like, "Oh, what would you say to like a young James Harden?" And he
Oh.
was just talking about like kind of how he would tell him to prepare better and be more like mentally stronger because he
Mm-hmm.
said like he would fold quickly and he's like I don't do that anymore. Like I'm not like you saw that, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like threes, man, floaters, getting to the rim, not being afraid of the big shot. Like that's what they need from him. But they also need more from Norm, bro. I
Yeah.
think you brought this up. He kind of went ghost last game, and yeah, they turned the ball over so many times too. Like they had 20 turnovers. It's just a mess
Yeah.
at the end of the game. So they got to clean up their end of game management, and then just keep doing what they're doing. I think they had a great game. I
Oh
think
yeah.
I think like you said it last time with the Rockets. I think the Clippers really lost this one at the end. Just
Mm-hmm.
bad turnovers, just self-inflicted wounds, and yeah, you can't have that pour over into this next game because I think Jokic isn't going 12 of 22 again either.
Nope.
I think he's going to see that and be pissed. I don't know if you saw this too. There was a down screen action in the first quarter that happened that Zubac set that got Jokic onto Kawhi that the Clippers tried to get into in overtime, and Jokic was just like not having any of that because he saw the same play and like was telling people what was gonna happen, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why he's so great. Is like he remembers shit like that like in the game,
Mm-hmm.
whereas a lot of people are just playing play by play, and that's cool. Like there's nothing wrong with that, but he's like he can remember what happened 50 plays ago and what might happen in 2 plays.
Mm-hmm.
Like so, it's just he's a computer in itself. I know you've been seeing him coaching up the Nuggets and stuff like that. So I think they're riding that hot hand right now. I think Jokic is, man, like he's not gonna win the MVP because I'm all for Shea, but man, if there was two, he would get it. I think
Mm-hmm.
he has the chance to take them all the way to the NBA Finals. So Clippers got to clean up their end of game management, get Norman Powell going. Nuggets got to do it with MPJ, and then figure out how they can implement their offensive game plan. Keep doing that because I think they got this W. They're feeling in a good spot. They don't have to change too much if they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you said it perfect, bro.
Yeah,
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 same sentiment, bro. Clean up the turnovers. Obviously Harden and
yeah.
Kawhi are gonna do their thing, but we need Norman Powell to step up and kind of be what he has been for them all season.
Oh, you need it. You need it.
Zubac is doing his
Was
thing. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah,
he's
he was
been doing his
awesome. He's
thing.
not. I was gonna say, Zubac. Like, I don't even think like you're saying. He's now to me somebody. I'm like, yeah, I expect 12 and 12 or
Hmm.
14 and 12. That's not unheard of from
Right.
him. Like you're saying, the Norman Powell going cold can't happen.
Mm-mm.
And especially in Denver too. My God, like you're in the altitude, bro. It's so hard to play at Mile High, and it's just yeah, it's tough, bro. I think they're up. This series should go 7 though. I think when they go back home, it's going to be tougher for the Nuggets. And if
Hmm.
Jamal Murray doesn't show up, they're in a world of hurt. If
Hmm.
one day Jamal Murray doesn't give you a good fourth quarter or something like that, man,
Hmm. Yeah.
man, because he can't guard James Harden
Nope.
either. That's also Adelman was, it's hard to put him out there because he can't guard.
Hmm.
And James Harden's very tough to guard. So I think Peyton Watson was sticking on him a little bit, but that was the only person like him and Christian Braun too.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was kind of that Clippers game. Super interesting, but we talked about it. Just the overtime thriller is super dope. So not too much to really highlight there, but super interesting series. But Hey, would you like to take the cake on this one, my man? I think I don't even want. I don't honestly. If you asked me, I don't even know if we should talk about it that much.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I was about to say, I just want to bring up the fact that we blitzed them right from the get go. Everybody was hitting shots. Obviously, talking about Thunder Grizzlies matchup for everyone that doesn't know. Yeah, it's tough, bro. It's tough for them. Obviously, Grizzlies have been playing a lot of games these past couple days and doing the play in, and obviously they're able to get this 8 seed. But kind of where I was asking you if having rest was good or bad, it was good for us, bro. It's been something where everyone's
oh yeah,
healthy. Everyone that's has been playing all year is actually fully healthy now. So we saw it. You know what I mean? And when you have one of the best defense, if not the best defense in the league. You have, Shea didn't even have the greatest game, but we'll talk about that later on. We just everyone else is stepping up, bro. Where we forced 16 turnovers or 20 turnovers, I believe, and it's something where it's hard when Grizzlies are a great team, but I just don't think they have enough. Desmond Bain had, I think, the worst plus minus in playoff history. I think it was minus 51.
hmm
And he was, I said it. I think he is gonna be their X factor. We know what Ja can be. Obviously he didn't have the greatest game either, but when you have Desmond Bain shooting 3 for 12 from the field, you're
yeah.
not gonna win a lot of games because
No, no, no.
no offense to the Grizzlies, but y'all have good young players, but y'all don't have like a solidified player that we can know that we know is going to be able to step up in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Edie did decent, for the most part. Like I said, got 9 boards, but like I think it was just they caught us on a bad
right.
day, bro. They
Yeah,
caught it
too much.
too much for them, bro. Yeah, that's really all I can say. Everyone, all starters scored double digits. Aaron Wiggins saved basketball
Oh,
again, bro. 21 points, 4 for 7 from three. That was the thing, bro. We shot 35% from the 3 point line. We scored 17 out of 48. So when we're hitting our shots, bro. I mean, we talk about it all the time. You're hitting your threes. It's gonna be tough to win or it's gonna be tough for the opponent to win that game. You know what I mean? And when our defense is just so constricting. You know what I mean? Whenever I think I talked about it earlier. Whenever like with Zach Edey, he's a great player, but we have the type of players that are kind of like a mismatch, like a matchup nightmare for
yeah,
him. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah.
I feel like we're gonna kind of take him out of the picture, and that's why I said Desmond Bain is gonna be their deciding factor of if they're gonna win this series or not. But yeah, no, that like you said, it's not really much to talk about, bro. We beat him by 51.
No.
Um,
I was gonna say, I think Jada, kind of stole the show. Case and Wallace had a crazy dunk, but at the end of the day, before we got on here, what did I say? There just seemed to be no effort from the Grizzlies. So yeah, there's nothing to talk about. If you don't want to go and play with high energy and intensity, you're gonna get pissed on, especially by one of the best teams in the last decade.
mhm.
That's what we can say about that. I think it was embarrassing. I remember I was like, oh yeah, we don't have to watch this,
Yeah,
which is it's frustrating because I like this matchup. I really
yeah,
do. I like the 1-8. I think in the West it's interesting because I don't, I think the Thunder they would have been willing to play anybody, but they're excited to play the Grizzlies because they were probably the better 8 seed out of those two. Whatever, like the Kings, Mavs, like Dagnall's crazy. They want to play the best teams. They want to prove why they're so good. So they were able to do that last night. They do it as an entire unit. Shea doesn't need to get 30. I don't think he even cares. I think I've kind of been waiting for the day where the Thunder just win by like 80 and Shea scores no points.
right. Yeah,
Like I would love to see that day because we all know he can score 63 or whatever. Like he
hmm
doesn't need to score. He's scored for 3 straight years.
right.
I think Aaron Wiggins and Lou Dort and J Dub. I think this game for J Dub was like crazy, bro.
Yeah,
So
that
good for
alley oop,
him.
bro. That alley oop was
Yeah.
huge
Oh man.
over
Yeah,
Edie.
bro. And oh, just it was literally a harmonious symphony, bro. So yeah, I really have nothing else to say outside of what a performance by them.
hmm
I haven't seen a team win by that much, I think, in my life
Yeah,
in the playoffs. So, just there's really not. I don't have anything to say, bro. We've said that a lot on this podcast. It is frustrating for me. Trust me, I want to talk about the Thunder, but when you get stuff like this, you can just check the box score.
Yeah. Just look at it. Look at the plus
Yeah.
minus for everyone on the Thunder,
Mm-hmm.
man,
Yeah.
and
Check the
even on
box
the
score.
Grizzlies. It speaks
Mm-hmm.
for
Check the
itself.
box score.
Hmm.
Like you're saying, I'm like that one's one of those ones where you're like, I don't even know if you wanted to watch that.
Yeah.
Uh, I think like you said in the first quarter though, they just blitzed them, and
Yeah.
then it was like. I think you brought up a good point too with your first point, the tired legs. I didn't know how that would impact Memphis. I think you brought up a good point with the Thunder. You said that you were like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think with the rest, they're gonna be still fine, and clearly they were. But I was hoping Memphis kind of play with more effort. Yeah, and they just didn't have it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good. We got
Yeah.
that first blowout.
Yeah, I was about to say. Obviously, I don't think it's gonna be like this every game for all the listeners and viewers. I think it's gonna be a better game this upcoming. I think it's on tomorrow. I think it's gonna be a better. It's gonna be a good series, bro. Like I said,
Yeah,
I don't ever count anybody out in this league. I think Jaw said it as well in his post or his presser at the end of the game. Yes, we lost by a lot, but if we win next game, it's going to be 1-1, so it doesn't matter. And I think that's a good mentality. Like I said, Jaw's one of my favorite players in this league. It just so happens to be that he's going against my squad, and I like that mentality. But I still think Thunder in 5, bro. Honestly, that I think I said my prediction,
yeah.
and it's looking like
I
that, bro.
still Yeah, I think Memphis can get one when they're focused,
Hmm.
like you're saying, but I think the amount of focus they're going to spend on that one game is just an avalanche because you have to do that 4 times, and the Thunder are just a defensive powerhouse, and they can score. Honestly, they're probably also one of the best offensive teams, if not the best. So,
Hmm.
um, just a massive lopsided game. So massively lopsided.
Yes.
Not much to say, but. I'll get into we went from the good, I would say, went to the bad. Now we at the ugly. Because the Grizzlies lost by 50. My team got pissed on too. And this shit's embarrassing. Like I said, I am super excited to talk about playoff hoops with you guys. But I'm not going to lie to you one bit. This shit doesn't bring me joy. To see our team not play with any effort, it's very frustrating. We had a rest too. I saw the way Ant was talking about this game. Obviously, for the viewers who don't know, I'm talking about the Lakers Timberwolves because we kind of been just going. But Ant spoke on this playoff series before it happened and said, yeah, everybody wants the Lakers to win, right? All of America, right? Me, right? Well, in the first game, man, I'm thinking it's gonna be one of them ones. Luka comes out, blitzes them right. I'm doing everything in the pick and roll, getting guys involved. I think he had 15.
Hmm.
I think he had
First
15
quarter.
points, bro. Like yeah. Like he was 6 of 12, cooking. I'm getting excited because I'm like, man, this is Luka's playoff debut. I remember I was with my girl. I'm like, man, okay, so we're competing. Here we go. Here we go. And I think after that, it was all bad. It was just all bad. I think we spoke about it before. Julius Randle, DiVincenzo, and Nas Reed, Jaden McDaniel. Hey man, if the Lakers cannot figure it out on defense, I can assure you, I'm telling you guys, I'm nowhere near the NBA, but I'm telling you guys, we're not winning a game in this series, bro. If we can't not figure out what we're doing defensively, and the threes, our 3-point defense is so bad. And man, I respect the Timberwolves. I talked kind of down on them and said their defensive net rating is kind of misleading because I don't think they're going to be able to slow down our guys. And hey, you said it, man. I didn't even have to say it. Austin Reeves, LeBron James, had it in my notes. At times, LeBron looks old. There was a few times, especially in transition, he would get pushed off his route by Randall or McDaniels and like miss a layup, and I'm like, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Timberwolves finished 21 of 42 from deep, and 4 of 9 from deep, 8 of 22 from the field. Our defense was great on Anthony Edwards, but Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels, I think Jaden McDaniels only missed like 2 shots, and then Randle was like 6 of 12. I mean, whole team is playing with juice. CJ brought this up, but it's tough because if a team is hitting their threes, it was kind of like what happened with LA versus the Thunder. But if a team is hitting their threes, bro, they're gonna win. They're gonna win. I think the Chris Finch has done an extremely good job. I wanted to give him credit too for allowing them to play freely and then giving them the ability to not only use their strengths to the best of their ability, but be the best player that they are in their role, bro. Like, I don't think Nas Reed would be a starter on every other team, but he's not for the Timberwolves. And that helps their bench scoring by whatever, 25 or however many points he had. And, I think they just exposed our defense, man. And it's the pick and roll. I think Anthony Edwards has gotten a lot better. He's becoming kind of coming into his own as a playmaker, and really as a true scorer, a 3-level scorer. I saw a ton of no help side rotations, just not seeing ball and gap, like stuff that's like kind of high school stuff, like back is turned to the ball, we're losing sight of cutters and stuff. I'm like, man, this is an effort issue. Jackson Hayes with 8 minutes, you can't play him. You want to know why? The Timberwolves play 5 out whenever Rudy Gobert is not on the court. And Rudy Gobert is on the court for 22 minutes because you want to know why? Chris Finch knows Rudy Gobert can't play in a series like this. So my issues run very deep. I think my biggest issue is the defense on Julius Randle and Nas Reed. That needs to get tightened up immediately. I told this to you, but Julius Randle has gone through our system before. Even though he is not a playoff riser, we need to understand the type of player that he is. And he is a great secondary scorer to Ant's primary scoring. And then Nas Reed has the 6th Man of the Year award. So what are you doing? Mm-hmm. He's not somebody that is just a scrub. He could start on any team in the NBA. I think he might be choosing not to start. Like, him and Chris Finch might have conversations like, oh yeah, I think I like playing better off the bench. Anyway, Austin Reeves, man, I need more from you, bro. I've talked about you being the X factor on our squad. I think you've had an amazing regular season, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're in one of these MIPs, or if you're in the running for one of these awards one day. Like, I wouldn't be shocked. But bro, like, we need more from you, man. I think the Timberwolves' strength, like their actual brute strength, really bothers him. I think how strong the Timberwolves are it's a problem. Like you said, you brought up another cool name, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Shai's cousin. Just, you can stick him on Austin Reeves and AR is not going anywhere, man, because that's real defense. Nickeil is strong as well. He's one of the stronger guards, one of the bigger guards we have in the NBA. And Luka got his, but I think that was Chris Finch's game plan. Let Luka get his, and then everybody else is going to struggle. We need more from Braun. We need more from AR in the scoring department. I think our bench also needs to show up as well. I need more from Finney-Smith and Vincent. I understand we can't play Jackson Hayes because of the defensive liabilities, but man, it would be nice to see us get out and run more too. I think we need to push the pace and not let the Timberwolves dictate kind of what we're doing. And JJ said it too, man, just the effort's not there. I think this game came down to effort, kind of like I was harping on the Grizzlies just recently. But when you got guys not being in ball and gap, not talking on defense, blaming others again for not being in help side, that shit's got to go, bro. That shit's got to go, especially right now. It's the playoffs. We can't afford, I told this to you too before we started recording, we can't afford to let these games stack. You lose 2 games in a playoff series, that's an issue. They're 50% of the way there. If they win this next game on the road, so we were at home. Fucking hell. So that's another thing too. Like, they came into crypto and said, "Fuck out of here," which scares me a little bit because I don't know if we're going into Minnesota and winning as easily as they just did. And both of the teams are off rest, right? I don't know, man. I think we're going to have to improve a ton defensively, and it's really not guarding Ant, it's guarding all their other pieces. We're going to have to figure out a way to also make sure that we're continuing to offensive rebound, create more opportunities for himself. I saw a lot of one-and-done possessions. Luka misses a jumper, that's it. That's not going to help us at all. We got to get to the line more too, man. I think guys got to be a little bit more aggressive. Keep that as one of the key pieces to our team is getting to the free throw line, because not only does that help us in the scoring department, but it just slows the game down. And I think, yeah, and you saw him with the little, he was telling Luca, he was talking to him, man, because I think he was telling him like, yeah, man, you're gonna score, but your team sucks. Like your team sucks. You don't suck, obviously, but like you're not doing anything, man. I'm over here having a blast. Like you're not gonna do shit about it.
Mm.
So, um, I don't know, bro. I think we need to stop relying on Luka Doncic too. I never thought that would come out of my mouth, bro. I never thought that would come out of my mouth as a Lakers fan, but we need to give him more help. Kind of like I sound like a Mavericks fan right now, or past one, but like he needs help for sure from LeBron and from AR.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, bro. It was tough, bro. It was a tough watch because obviously we were able to finish the pod prior to the game starting, so I watched the whole game and
I was
yeah,
so
bro.
fucking excited too.
Yeah, bro.
Man,
It was like you said,
there's a hole in my
threes,
wall because of that shit.
threes, bro, threes, defense, effort. It was tough. It was a tough watch, bro. You know what I mean? I guess kind of if going into this next game, right?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
you think y'all can get this dub?
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say I think it's gonna start with the defensive effort, and I think we're gonna have to figure out a way how we can incorporate some other guys into the offense, whether that be via calling them set plays. Because I'm not gonna lie, it's not a Luka Doncic dance party. He can't go 1-on-5 with the pick and roll every single time. There needs to be some structure. I think you can get caught out of bounds whenever you have a player like that, right? Because you're just like, well, let's give him the ball. And
Right.
I think there was a lot of that. I think if we can clean up our offensive mishaps, and then also just, yeah, let's hit some threes too. Let's make sure that we're getting the threes up still and being effective from out there. I think we just, yeah, the defense on Nas and Jay Randall's got to clean up, bro. I think my main focus is going into this next game is how LeBron James plays as well. I said this to you guys. I thought he was going to have us prepared and go out there and play with a high value effort, and it just wasn't there. And I put that on our leaders, and I think LeBron is going to be having a much better game because he averages like 28 a game in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hoping we were going to get that type of Bron, but I know he's going to actually go back to the drawing board and figure out how he can be effective. If he needs to be more aggressive, he will be. If he needs to shoot more threes, he will. I think we're going to be able to answer all those questions that I'm, asking right now. But I think JJ is going to be in tough shit. I think when we're down too, it seems like we hang our head, bro. It's like we kind of give up, and I just don't want us to give up. I think the Timberwolves at one point, it was still like an 11-point game. Luka had this crazy half court shot to cut it to 11. I had a ton of hope going into the fourth quarter, but we just could not get anything going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, and you know, I think with each loss, it just gets me closer and closer to the end. So that's why I'm like, ugh, man, that's frustrating. Like I don't want us to go out in this way, first round playoff exit to the Timberwolves. Like that sounds horrible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sounds not good.
Yeah. Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really all I had to say. Just poor defensive effort. The Timberwolves look like an extremely unified team. I think their defense speaks for itself. I'm not gonna doubt their defense again, but I'm just hoping those other guys can show up and be more effective. And yeah, bro, I'm excited for this series. I think it could go 6 or 7 for sure.
Mm.
I wasn't expecting that before, but the Timberwolves are gonna hit their threes, bro, and be this competitive, man. Who knows what could happen?
Mm. Who do you think on the bench is gonna be the X factor?
It's got to be Finney Smith.
Yeah, I agree.
or or Vando to an extent.
Mm.
I feel like Vanderbilt can start sometimes, but I feel like whenever we have him come off the bench, he just plays with extreme defensive energy. And to me, he had the best defensive game that last game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Vando was playing well. I don't think Alex Len should be in the game whatsoever.
At all.
Um, at all, bro. I don't know. I think it's like, yeah, it's about our bench, but I just think LeBron and AR
LeBron.
really gotta,
Yeah.
yeah, like they gotta go time. Luka's doing it.
Hmm.
It's never Luka.
Yeah.
Luka's always doing it, man. No matter what people say, like he's always getting to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said it too. It did seem like the physicality of the Timberwolves were giving AR a lot of problems. So obviously,
Yeah.
I don't know how that's really gonna change because that's more so just I feel like over the years that's something you can work on and get better at. But in a series, it'd be a lot tougher. But I don't expect him to do have the type of performance he did this game. I think he was missing a lot of. He was 3 from 8 from three, so it's solid. But especially what we've been seeing from all season. I expected a little bit more out of him, and I think he'll figure it out. I think that's gonna be like you said. He's really the X factor. You know what I mean? I guess I kind of asked you who would.
Hard, but like, yeah, like he's gotta be like 20,
Yeah, at
or else
least.
our team ain't going
Hmm.
nowhere, bro. And same with Braun too.
Yeah, Braun
Yeah,
too.
he's old, bro, but like, bro, at times he just looks like I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man. I don't know how to explain that. I'm just like, fuck me. Like, LeBron is old, bro. Like he
Hmm.
can't get to the he can't get to the cup like he used to. Like there
Hmm.
was times where he'll just like,
Yeah, just
like, but
dunk
now
you.
he's like, he's got a like Euro and like, yeah, I'm like,
He's trying to lay up, and it's hard to do it against the defense.
yeah. Like those guys jump really
Really
high.
high.
You know,
Yeah.
probably just as high as he did when he was younger.
Hmm.
So it's just like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, and he only got to the line twice too, which is kind of. I feel like with Braun, you expect at least probably like 6 to 8. You know what I mean? So that was like you said, he's getting older, so
The
part.
threes too, man. I don't think he did anything, you know,
Yeah, one for
from the three
5.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I need more attempts. I just need more, man. Just the energy was bad, and yeah, I think playoff scoring gets highlighted a lot, but at the end of the day, we got to figure out ways to win games. Um, and I think the way that we're doing it right now, trying to put it on Luka's hands, like it's on his shoulders for sure, but these other guys gotta contribute,
Hmm. Yeah.
and they didn't in game 1.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
bro.
but yeah, bro. I don't know, man. We kind of recapped the Nuggets and the next game coming up. I'm not sure. I don't have the score in front of me. The Nuggets and Clippers are the ones who play tonight, and
Yes.
then
Uh,
the
the
Knicks. The Knicks.
yeah, Knicks Pistons.
Okay, for sure. So those are the two. We'll leave those there for now. But I want to get into some playoff questions I have for you, sir. I think I'm going to do the player focused ones. So I think we'll go through some of these guys, and I want to see your thoughts on this, bro, because I feel like we don't talk about this a ton, but which superstar do you feel like has the most to prove in this NBA playoffs, and why? It could be somebody we have on the list, but it could also be somebody that you're just thinking about.
Ooh, that's a great question. Um,
I know
fuck.
mine.
Yeah, say yours first, then I got you in
I
mind.
think Luka Doncic.
Okay.
Luka Doncic does not have MVP. He does not have a finals ring. He does have 5 first team All NBA appearances, and he now plays on a team with LeBron James. His For people who don't know, really his childhood idol. Um, I think when you look at Luka's career, right, you see all the great games that he's had, you see all the playoff success that he's had, but I think that asterisk is still by his name to this day. Now, when I go through these lists of players, Jason Tatum, nope, proved the point last season, right? Jokic, whatever the case may be, he's not going to be on that list, but he doesn't have anything to prove. Ant's a good one, right? James Harden's also good. But I feel like the type of player that Luka Doncic is, no offense to Ant and James Harden, I feel like Luka Doncic is going to finish better than those two cats. Not
Hmm.
going to lie.
Hmm.
Luka Doncic is doing things that just we have not seen before, and he's been doing them for the last 7 years. So it's now time. It's now or never, bro. In the next 4 years, he has a short window of like this is when Luka Doncic would be able to win an NBA Finals, and it would make sense. Because after that, I think the future kind of in like 5 or 6 years, our future on the Lakers is going to look kind of dark, bro, for sure. Especially if we haven't been able to win that ring. Also, another reason I bring his name up is LeBron James is only getting older. It's not like next season you can do this or the season after that. Like it's kind of this year, maybe next year.
Mm-hmm.
But for Luka Doncic, I think it's now or never, especially going to the finals last season with the Mavericks and being one of the best players we've seen in that obviously that environment, but just in the world, bro. I think he solidified himself as like a top 5 player when he's healthy, and he's one of the only players on this list that I truly feel like an NBA championship would completely solidify him being first ballot Hall of Famer. I think James Harden's a first ballot Hall of Famer already. I think Jason Tatum's most likely a first ballot Hall of Famer already. Same with Luka, of course, but I think this would really cement his status among the legacy of the NBA greats.
Yeah, that was a
So
great
Luka
answer.
Doncic,
Luka Doncic.
yeah, he's got to prove to me, bro. He's got to prove to me that this shit isn't just a fluke, bro. Like he can keep doing this, and I think he now has a team around him who I would say, yes, the Mavericks were solid. Their team was so good last year, no doubt. But when I look at the weapons on the Lakers, I see a similar team. Kind of like Austin Reeves, a little Kyrie, right? Like, PJ, like I see Dorian Finney-Smith and PJ a lot. Just an athletic dude who can shoot threes. Like, and then that big, we don't have the bigs that they have. Obviously, we only got Jackson Hayes, so that's an L. But I think Luka could still do some damage this year, bro. And I think it really stems from all of his playoff shortcomings. I think he's already had the babiness of like, all right, your first playoff game. All right, your first conference finals. All right, your first NBA finals. And like now it's like, all right, bro, what are you doing?
Right. That's a great answer. I like that. I'll go with Shea, and this is why.
Yeah.
Obviously we know what Shea is. We've seen what he's been doing the past 2 seasons. Obviously the last 3 really scoring wise, but he didn't really have a team that 3 years ago he had the team right last year. We're number 1 seed. We weren't able to get past Luka and the Mavs, right? But this year, 100%, bro. I'll go with Shea for sure because I feel like just the expectations for us at this point, especially after that game 1, blowout of the Grizzlies, and then kind of just really what we've been able to prove to the league in, the regular season. I feel like that's the main thing, but it's just if we could do it in the playoffs. And that's literally what I've been telling you all season. It's what I've been saying on the podcast for all our listeners. I need to see it in the playoffs, especially for me. It's because, we've been having such a great season. But, at this point, it's crazy to say because, I've been very mindful of what I say, but I think this season, especially just based off, obviously I'm assuming he's probably going to win the MVP as well, so that's another thing. It might be championship or not bust, right? But it might be a championship. Like this is our year, honestly.
This is the win. This is the time.
This is the time. And if he obviously we won by 50, he didn't score that many points, right? That's not a big deal to me.
Whatever.
But if there is the games where it's close and where he's not able to do what we know he can do,
not showing up,
that's when those conversations start to be had. And thankfully, that has not happened yet. Even when he got eliminated last year in the second round, he was doing his thing. It was more so the team, right? But this year, he went off, bro. So it's definitely Shea, bro. Because like I said, I would say these past couple of seasons, I would say is kind of like the rise that he's had is like very Steph Curry-esque. Like if you really think about
100%.
it, like kind of not came out of nowhere, right? If you know ball, you know who Shea is. He's been here. Obviously, you probably weren't expecting him to be this good, but he's MVP level back to back years and best team in the West. So it is probably Shea, bro. Because if you look at it, yes, he's been averaging 33 this season. Has the best defensive defensive team ever, largest margins of victories, double-digit
I was going to ask
wins.
you, bro, if he wins this MVP, do you think it's even more so? Because
Yeah,
I do believe it's something I told you about Luca. Luca doesn't have that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
another question that's like, well, you do all this stuff, bro, but you're not better than Shea. Not really,
Right,
because you don't guard. You're not better than Jokic. Not really, because your plus minus isn't that, right? So it's
right.
like all these questions, like, all right, I think Shea over the next 2 to 3 years too, bro, the most pressure. Because if he's not
Hmm.
getting 30 every season from pretty much here on out, people are going to be so shocked. So I
Right.
love that answer. I think that's right on the money.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to say it, but kind of like your reasoning was a little while I was kind of shifting because of like I'm kind of going back on what I just said, but we have the team to where we have a at least like a 3-4 years to where we can figure that out, right? Like you said with Luca and like Braun, right? Braun doesn't have that many years on him, and Luca
No,
is
you're
gonna
right.
be
You're
that
right.
guy. So I liked your answer a lot, but yeah, no, I agree. I was gonna go with, I should have just went with my gut feeling from the get go and say Shea, because I think
Yeah.
it's the expectations at this point for the team and for him
Yeah, and
specifically.
honestly, and if they get bounced again, if they don't go to the fucking finals or at least the Western Conference
Western
Finals
Conference
again, I'm gonna
Finals.
be like, that's sketchy, bro.
Yeah.
That's sketchy.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
very.
he's got to get there at least before those conversations are had. But yes, bro, there's a ton of pressure on him. So I love that answer. I think that's a perfect way to cap this episode off. I feel,
Yeah.
You have
Yeah, yeah.
anything else you wanted to add, man?
Nah, man. Just hopefully the boys can keep this up. You know what I'm saying? This is what I've been
Oh,
waiting for
dude.
all year. I was super excited to watch that game yesterday, and it's so obviously it was a blowout, right? And I'm like a weird fan. I like to see close games, but I hate them at the same time because it kind of just shows you the team you are. Of course, it's all fine and dandy when you're beating a team by 50, but what is it?
Yeah.
What is it like when you're having to take that down by 5 with like 3 minutes left? You know what I mean? I kind of like those games, but
Yeah,
like I
clutch
hate them at
time
the same time. You know what I mean? Because I want to see my team win, but I just
exposes you.
exactly
Yeah.
pressure builds makes diamonds. You know what I mean? So it's like it
Yeah.
it's something where like I said, I don't ever try to get too far ahead of myself in the playoffs, especially in this league. You just never know. But hopefully we could keep it up, and we could end up getting this series. But it's on a game 2 tomorrow, and that's really all I'm focused on right now, man.
Yeah. Hey, man, I was gonna say we have to guard Julius Randle and Nas. We gotta slow him down. AR, we need more from you. Obviously, Dorian Finney-Smith. It would be nice if you checked in as well. And I think Jackson Hayes should get a little bit more run too. I'm looking forward to game 2 as well. I think Ant is gonna be here, man. It's something that he's always, I think he's going to average 25, 26 points in this series, no matter what. He's always going to get the attempts. He's going to have the minutes. It's going to be the other players on the Timberwolves. We cannot let Jaden McDaniels, Nas Reed, and all these guys kill us, man. So I'm focused on that. Really going to be watching for the defense that we play on those guys, not even Anthony Edwards, just the other guys, and how, that kind of shifts the game. But yeah, man, if you guys aren't watching playoff basketball, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. I feel like it's such an important time, and everybody watches the finals in June. That's kind of like on in the background. If you could be at a bar and they'll put that on, but the playoffs is something you got to kind of sift through and make sure you're sitting down watching these teams. And I'm super excited for game 2, and hopefully the Lakers can get this W, man. It's always Lake Show. I'm always repping. Got a hole in the wall because of y'all, but I appreciate it. Gonna have my Mamba jersey on still. So yeah, man, that's really all I got too, man. I'm excited. I think your team has proven a lot this season. I think Shea has a ton to prove in this playoffs. I've been watching him very closely. Didn't have him on the list, but that's a perfect. Yeah, he may even have more than Luca, honestly, right now because his team is so freaking good.
Hmm.
So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, if y'all liked and enjoyed this episode of 3 Man Weave, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see y'all next time, man. Peace. Thunder up, baby. Let's
Peace.
go.
Lake Show. Let's go.